Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And today we're going to help this GM with his irregular players. I'm going to start this GM 911 by thanking our sponsor, Nord Games, that makes it all possible. Down in the description below, you can find a link to Nord Games, where that link will give you 10% off anything in their shop. There's also a promo code down there for 10% as well.
Games by gamers for gamers.
So go get some Nord Games in your life. So we have a GM 911. KP Hogan sent it in, and the gist of it is through the miracle of virtual tabletopping, he has been able to get the band back together. Any given time, they can have up to 8 or 9 players at the table, but it's usually more like 4 or 5. You know, it's the old gang. It's the people he used to game with before. But not everyone can always get together at the same time, and people pop in and out of the game. No one seems to really care that much. Wants to know how we handle it.
Well, this is something that's plagued our group, or
forever.
Yeah, from
Since
the beginning.
Dawn of D&D, players have been plagued by this problem.
You know, depending upon where you are in your life, you could have homework, job, you could have work, you could have kids, a wife, a spouse, however you want to look at it.
You can have all of the above.
All of these things vie for our attention. I've had times where it's like, oh no, something's going on with the house, so this person's not able to make it up. I've got car trouble, I'm not able to get there. Oh well, can you pony a ride from somebody? Can you do this? Can you do that?
My significant other said no.
There's even that. So all of these things winds up butting heads against the gaming group, and it can be a challenge. It can be a chore at times, just trying to get everyone at the table to play a game.
Let's start off with, in the old days, some ways that it's been handled before. Might be a little bit different than we do now.
Well, there's been times where the DM for the night says, well, I'm not running if everybody doesn't show up, and I'm completely guilty of that. It was the old Ted. I don't game that way anymore. We've had DMs who say, well, if you're not here, your character's just gonna die, which is incredibly harsh. That's never been me.
We've had GMs that make just have your character fade to the back, have someone else control your character. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. These are all things that have passed. I've come up with things for players that I knew were going to be inconsistent and made magic items tied to them, so they pop in and out of the game at random because of that.
And that one I think was the most successful. You have players that are typically going to be consistent, and you have players that due to one thing or another have the chance of being inconsistent. And in that specific case, my character found a disc, and it was tethered to me. Despite everything I tried to do, I could not get rid of it. Well, every time Steve showed up in that campaign, the disc would get warm, and out would pop a dwarf that was ignorant and belligerent, and my elf couldn't stand that I couldn't get rid of this 10-inch disc. But
A curse.
it was what it was. So it was a curse on both of us. But it was a successful way of dealing with a out-of-game problem. Now, you can't do this for every single campaign. If you have things go on, players can be kidnapped. If you're, moving in and out of a town that the players might call home, or the characters might call home, they could have relatives that require aid. There could be their real world job that might wind up calling to them that they need to go deal with this problem, and they're hush about it. It's like, no guys, you go do what you got to do. I have to handle this on my own. And they might never ever talk about it. Maybe it gets revealed later in the game when that player becomes more consistent, and now it's a future quest idea. Oh well, all right guys, I've been dealing with this problem on my own, but I can't handle it anymore. I need your help.
And another huge factor is how much notice are you getting as the GM as well, is going to dictate what you can and can't do. Like when a player goes, hey, I got a thing coming up next week, I'm not going to be at game. Well, that player has kind of done you a favor, and now you have an opportunity to change what the adventure was going to be, or to make adjustments. It's a lot easier than someone just not showing up, which is rude, by the way. And typically, if you do that at a job, they fire you. Or B, at the last minute, letting you know that they can't make it. So then you have to think fast and come up with something on the fly.
Or you get the phone call from the significant other saying they're not coming.
Yeah, or you get that. All these things can and have happened. So that's going to like play into what you can do as the GM, depending on how creative you are, how fast you think on your feet. So we've also had players show up for the wrong game on the wrong night, and instead of sending them away, we incorporate them. Literally, I had a player that couldn't make it, and I had a player show up that wasn't supposed to be there. And so I just did some weird like transmogrification magic that switched their characters just for that session.
Yes. And it was interesting because that character almost wound up becoming a regular in the game. Like, so it was like, okay, at the end of the session they switched back, and then that new player might have joined that game. It didn't wind up happening, but it was interesting. I know in a session that you ran, I couldn't make it. I had a family obligation to deal with, and you took my character, hostage, prisoner, and that became the adventure for the night. And not only did that occupy me, it gave a story for the players to deal with, and then it continued as there was more to uncover with said plot. So it was an interesting choice, and it was a good choice. And you can't always be taking prisoners hostage or playing characters hostage.
I had so this one was really tricky. If you follow along the Scarlet Sisterhood, this might be a spoiler if you're not there yet. But just fast forward a little bit, it'll be fine. But one of the players, like I ended the session with two of the players in the woods without the other players, and a monster popped out. So what do you do? Like that's where we're literally starting the next session. So, when we started the next session, I had the one player that wasn't there get knocked on the head unconscious, and the monster took them and ran away with them. So that session's adventure for the other players were to try and get that person back. I had another time where I did something kind of similar, and one of the players was kidnapped, or wasn't even kidnapped. Like they, at camp, they were attacked by like these vines that drug them out of the camp, and so the other players had to give chase. And eventually they do find them, and there's these monsters like surfing on that player as the vines are dragging them, and they have to like defeat the monsters, cut the vines, get their friend back. Like in my game, if you do not show up, there's like a 75% chance you will be kidnapped, or you'll fall ill or something, and the adventure for that night will be to get you back or solve the problem that's wrong with you.
You're never safe. You're always a potential victim. You had a character that literally, went on a scouting mission and never returned.
It's very much possible. That sounds much older. Oh yeah, no. No, they all went and did a thing together, and they were hiding, and her character turned invisible, and the player hasn't been back into that game, so they don't know what happened to that character. Every once in a while, they're like, "Well, I wonder what happened to Vex." Is kind of a thing. Or we literally just go, we just ignore everything and play the game and don't worry about it.
I have done exactly that. I've had up to 9 players in my game, and we've been going for almost 4 years now. And it started off as 3, it's been as high as 9. I try to cap it now at 7. And if somebody doesn't show, If I have an inkling of what I want to say or what I want to do, they're off doing this. Or if somebody asks, well, where's this character? All right, I'll give you some kind of idea, or I might just say, you don't know. It's sometimes it's more work trying to figure out what actually is going on with that character than it is to actually plan an entire session worth of material. So if it's easier for you to just ignore it, you're not writing a novel. You're not doing, a great...
Wait a minute. What if me and my friends are creating freaking art here?
Well, then incorporate that art into it and let that be part of the mystery. it's not that important. The important part is that the people who are actually present are having fun, and you guys are enjoying what's there. It's, as a DM, you already do so much work. Why should you why should you stress and do even more when players are unable to get there? I'm not worried because this person's got a job and this person's got a family and they can't make it tonight. I'm not going to do anything to your characters. They're not going to get any reward for that night, but when it's time for everybody to level up, everybody's still leveling up because that's the way I play my game. But I'm not going to stress out over why, Bob's not here tonight. It's just not that important to me.
There's more important things to worry about. If you're having fun, 15 years from now, no one is going to remember the player that didn't show up for that one session. And the DM, oh my God, didn't come up with a great story why he wasn't there. Just throw some funny shaved dice with your friends and have some fun. The question is, how do you guys deal with it in your games? We got a place for that down in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
While you're down there, don't forget to check out Nord Games. Get that promo code.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.